Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a look at Legendary CAEDA'S Weapon Refinement Remix, which I've been waiting for a long time. CAEDA being one of my favorite Fire Emblem characters, and I did plus 10 her Legendary a couple years ago, and I also made so many videos for her. So yeah, it's finally here, and again, I've been waiting for it because Legendary CAEDA has kind of been a mid legendary hero. Even when she released, she was never that crazy good. You know, she didn't really stand out that much. She had her place as a, advantage sweeper, but she didn't really, she wasn't that outstanding. So with this remix and refine, the question is, how much better is she? Is she good? Is she top tier now? The answer is yes, she's a lot better. I do like it. It's a solid weapon refine, but it's nothing crazy, and it's not going to make her, super common in the modes all of a sudden, at least right now at first glance. She has obstacles to deal with, and even though she is a lot better, there is a lot of downside to her, and there are a couple things in this weapon refine I wish she had, which I'll go over. So again, it is solid, it's nice, it's gonna make her a lot better, but not to the point where, she's like the queen of arena all of a sudden, even though she is still my queen. But you know what I'm saying. She's not going to become a top tier legendary hero in my opinion, but she does have a lot of unique traits as a flyer, and I'll be going over that in this video and a lot more. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this thorough analysis and review. So let's look at Wing Lifted Spear first, the weapon refine of course, and what it had before. So Wing Lifted Spear had before was the Canto 2. Effectiveness against armored and cavalry foes, which is CAEDA's signature. She's the queen of that along with my Kaya. Attack +3, +5 to all stats, and more stats on her and stat devos on the foe during combat by X. X equals the buffs and bonuses on the foe. So this is the buff stealing effect, and CAEDA's one of the first heroes to have this. There's a couple other units that have it, but basically using their buffs against them, which was nice, and especially in arena where buffs is common, that was nice to have. So that's what Wing Lifted Spear had before, but now with the refine, she keeps all of that, and now she gets the flat Y damage output during combat based on the number of bonus effects active on CAEDA and the foe, not including stat buffs, multiplied by 5 to a maximum of 25. This is huge because CAEDA really needed this, some kind of true or flat damage to kill the units she needs to, mainly armored and cavalry foes, because even when she released, when things were less strong, she still had a little bit of trouble killing some of the bulkier armors in the game. So having this flat Y damage output, especially in today's metagame, is going to go a long way, I think, to just let her hit harder. And any kind of true or flat damage reduction is appreciated. Any kind of unit that's trying to nuke, because there's just crazy bulky and broken units that are just gigantic walls. So having this is really cool, and I'm really glad that they gave this to her, because this is one of the effects I was hoping for. So thank you for that. And now moving on right along, she gets -1 cooldown. This is huge because she didn't have this before, and this will allow her obviously to trigger her specials much easier, and she also gets +1 charges, which is next up. So yeah, this is huge, and not everybody that has the +3 attack or +3 speed gets -1 cooldown in their weapon refine. So CAEDA was blessed to get that and was very appreciated. And next up, at start of player enemy phase, if unit is within 2 space of an ally, grants +6 attack and speed buffs, and these effects to herself and ally. So penalty neutralization and special charge +1, like I mentioned. This is great with the -1 cooldown she already gets to trigger her specials easier, and penalty neutralization is always nice to just stop any kind of debuffs on your stats. And she also gives this to her teammates, so she's a bit of supportive as well. Having that hybrid combat refine, but also getting some support is cool. And also the bonus effects that she gets that I just mentioned are going to go for her flat Y damage output, because again, it's based on the bonus effects active on CAEDA or the foe, and the foe. So without any kind of external support, she already gets a flat 10 damage, which is nice. And of course, it's easy to outsource other effects like null panic and stuff, so you can really get the maximum flat damage. So really nice to have. And then lastly, if she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she grants more to all of her stats equal to the number of allies within 3 spaces of her multiplied by 2, +5 to a maximum of 11. So that's pretty easy to get. And also has the damage reduction piercing by 50%. So that is nice as well, because No Quarter was her best special, hands down. But now with this, you don't really have to use No Quarter as much, because you still get, some kind of damage reduction piercing, which is cool. So yeah, that is the weapon refine. It's nothing crazy, like I said, but it is solid. And in tandem with the remix, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that is the weapon refine for Wing Lifted Spear. All right, so with all that being said, and how I said that the weapon refine is solid, there is one glaring missing thing in this weapon refine that I really wish she had, and something I was hoping they would give her, but they didn't. and that is the reverse desperation slash dive bomb effect. This would have been huge in CAEDA'S matchups and would have made her so much better in my opinion, because having that consecutive hit that would have made her super good. Like, just being able to kill units before they can do anything, because that's the problem sometimes, is you can vantage sweep and have the effective damage, but sometimes they'll live. They have flat damage reduction or whatever, but if she just had that consecutive hit, oh, that would have been amazing, because, you know, her husband Winter Marth, he got that in his weapon refine, and that's what made him so good, because just being able to strike twice in the enemy phase without, you know, them doing anything and just killing them, making sure they're dead, was huge. And if Legendary CAEDA had this, that would have made her borderline top tier, at least, like, in my opinion. So I guess I understand why they didn't give that to her, because the remix and refine is still pretty good. But man, I was hoping one of the CAEDA or Marths would have had that, because Marth and CAEDA, you know, the OTP, the couple, the blueprint, literally because they have blue hair, but you know, they are basically the king and queen of Vantage. That's their thing. So I was hoping one of the other CAEDA or Marths would have a melee version of what Winter Marth does with the reverse desperation slash dive bomb, but sadly they didn't give that to CAEDA, which I think would have been the perfect chance to, but alas, they didn't give it to her. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's something I really wish she had in the weapon refine, which is a bit disappointing, but you know, can't have everything. So next up, we're going to look at the Faithful Loyalty 2 Remix B skill. This is a really good upgrade, because before, Faithful Loyalty 1 only had no follow-up advantage against armored and calves, advantage after combat, and also, actually that's it, that's all it had. So now it keeps all of that, and a -5 debuff to attack speed and defense, and the same flat damage reduction as her Attuned version's Belief and Love B skill. So if you guys aren't familiar with Attuned CAEDA, this B skill is what makes her good and still one of the best Omni tanks in the game, in my opinion. This gives her the flat damage reduction against everything, but mainly against armored and calves. So this is, I mean, it's not the exact skill, obviously, because CAEDA can vantage sweep, Attuned CAEDA can't, but it does have the main part, which is the damage reduction, the flat damage reduction, which is pretty much copy and pasted to Faithful Loyalty 2, which I guess is a bit lazy, but it makes sense. It's still CAEDA, and it's very much appreciated because it's going to make her a lot tankier and a very unique flyer. So again, let's go over what it does if you aren't familiar with it. So the flat damage reduction is the strongest against armored or cav foes based on X. X equals the number of bonuses among CAEDA and her allies within 2 spaces of her. And this is easy to get because CAEDA and her Legendary CAEDA and Attuned CAEDA already give +6 attack and speed to her teammates. So, and you know, buffs in general are pretty easy to give out. So getting this flat damage reduction is very easy for the most part. And you know, the flat damage reduction, if you've used any kind of CAEDA, or should I say Attuned CAEDA, or any kind of tank that has flat damage reduction, you can just reduce the damage by so much and take nothing. So take, for example, Emblem Sigurd, who's one of the best nukes in the game. CAEDA does not care about him. Sigurd just does nothing. Even with his AoE, he's going to do nothing. And it's really fun because whenever I see Emblem Sigurd, for the most part, I'm just like, CAEDA, take care of him. He's going to do, you know, zilch, nada to CAEDA here. So same thing with Legendary CAEDA, she can also do that, but you know, the difference is she can vantage sweep, so that's cool. But yeah, just having that flat damage reduction is amazing, and not many flyers get access to this, so that's what makes her unique in my opinion, because you know, the tanky units in the game, the tankiest units in the game are infantry and armor units. You know, flyer and cavalry units, they don't really get access to skills like Lagu's Friend and all these bulky fighter skills. You know, they don't really get access to that, but CAEDA getting flat damage reduction on a flyer is pretty rare. I mean, you have access to like attack speed excel, but that's limited. You know, you don't really get this much flat damage reduction as a flyer, so it makes CAEDA very unique, and it makes her this vantage slash tank. I wouldn't say omni tank because she doesn't have no counter disrupt, which I'll get to in a bit, but it does make her that cool vantage slash tank, which not many units in the game can do. The only other unit that I can think of is like Attuned Erica, who's that vantage sweeper that also has flat damage reduction to fall back on. So that's what you really need. If you're a vantage sweeper in 2025, or you're a modern vantage sweeper, you also want to have flat damage reduction, because if you don't kill, then you have that flat damage reduction as a failsafe, and also there's hardy bearing that is increasingly more common, especially with the emblem heroes. So I'm really happy that Legendary CAEDA got that flat damage reduction, because it is needed when Vantage doesn't kill. But that also goes into what I said about the reverse desperation, because if you had that reverse desperation effect, that would have ensured that she wouldn't have to fall back on the damage reduction as much, because she would be able to kill them with the effective damage way easier. So that would have made a world of difference. I keep saying that, but that would have been amazing. But yeah, still, even without the reverse desperation, great to have the flat damage reduction. And even against units that aren't cavalry and armor, you know, she still gets it, but it's only on the foe's first attack and only 40% of X. So keep that in mind. It's not as strong against infantry and flyers, but it's still good to have. And of course you have Vantage, which can come in clutch. And you also have 7 HP healing. So even if you do take a lot of damage, you know, you can still heal a little bit of that off. So yeah, really unique flyer that again can tank, not omni tank, but can tank and just have that advantage capability. So very unique. No other flyer in the game that can really do this right now. So really cool. That Faithful Loyalty is pretty nice. So yeah, that is the remix skill. Alright, so next up I'm going to be comparing a Legendary Caeda to her Attuned version because they're both pretty similar. They're both Lance heroes. They have similar beast skills like I said. And you can see Legendary Caeda as like a flying version of her Attuned version that can hit harder, but that doesn't mean that she's straight up better. So I'll be going over all the advantages and disadvantages, comparing them because I thought it'd be fun, and again, they're similar. So Legendary Caeda, the first pro that she has is obviously the flat wide damage output. But even with this, it doesn't mean that she's better in matchups because Attuned Caeda still has higher stats overall. She's a newer unit. She has access to Gust. Gust is a really good special for higher damage output, flat damage reduction. So even though Caeda has that, it's not as much as Attuned Caeda sometimes. So the flat damage Y output is still, you know, flat damage, and that's something Attuned Caeda can struggle with. You know, sometimes she can't kill with her special, but it doesn't mean that Legendary Caeda is better in matchups. So I guess it's like pick your poison. It's it's dependent, but Legendary Caeda still has that flat damage, which is a pro in her favor, but it's also, you know, Attuned Caeda just has higher stats overall. Another pro that Legendary Caeda has is better support. So she gives out one more effect. She gives out special charges and penalty neutralization, which is overall better than what Caeda gives, Attuned Caeda gives, which is just the oath effect, which is still good, but it's not as much as what Legendary Caeda has to offer. And then last, the obvious one is that she can Vantage Sweep, which Vantage, while it is an advantage, no word, that wasn't supposed to be a pun, but even though it can be an advantage, it can also backfire on you. So, but of course it can be clutch as well. So the advantages that Attuned Caeda has is the fact that she's simply an infantry unit. She has access to more skills like Gust, like I said, Times Pulse skill. She has Distant Bonus Doubler, Null Counter Disrupt Echo, that's the big one because, like I said earlier, Legendary Caeda is a good tank. She's not a good Omni tank because Omni tanks means you can counterattack against everything, and Attuned Caeda can do that with the Null Counter Disrupt E skill. So this is going to make her a way better tank at everything because Legendary Caeda does not have access to that unless you use Ice Tribe Felicia, who's not that common of a unit. So it's like one unit you have to use, you know, go out of your way to use. But Attuned Caeda already has access to this, and being an attuned hero, she doesn't have to sacrifice her beast skill, which is amazing. So that is one big advantage that Attuned Caeda has. Another advantage is Belief in Love also has Unity built in. So this is a measure against stat debuffs and lets her stat stack way more. And again, like I said earlier, Attuned Caeda just has way more stats, so she's going to be able to meet stat checks better and just get way stronger. So the only thing that sucks is someone who uses both of them. In Arena, it's not going to synergize well because Legendary Caeda has penalty neutralization, and then Attuned Caeda has the Unity effect. So it's like, it's not going to work. So if you get debuffed on Attuned Caeda, then Legendary Caeda would clean it up, which is not what you want because Caeda wants to get debuffed to get more stats, so that sucks. But yeah, that's just one kind of nitpick I have with that, but it is what it is. Disadvantages for Legendary Caeda. Again, she's not infantry, so she doesn't have access to Null C, like I said. And Faithful Loyalty 2, while it is good, she's not going to be able to counterattack against everything unless you have Ice Tribe Felicia. And then I said it already, the No Desperation Dive Bomb really sucks. That would have made her so much better, and I've already said it multiple times, but that is definitely a disadvantage. And another disadvantage is that her weapon is a little bit reliant on getting the foe to be buffed up to get the maximum debuffs. So if they're not buffed up, you're not going to get the most stats, but still she can get, again, like she really gets a lot of stats anyway, but the foe having to be buffed is a little bit of a problem sometimes. And then the Vantage part. So Vantage, while I said it is an advantage, sometimes it can backfire because it can trigger the foe special and just kill her if they survive. So that is a little bit worse than Attuned Caeda just taking the hit and then retaliating, because Vantage, while it is good, it does have its weaknesses. So that's one of them. And then lastly, she's very reliant on buffs, which can easily be countered, which I'll get into. And that's also a similar problem that Attuned Caeda has. So yeah, So those are pretty much the pros and cons to them that you might want to consider if you have one or the other, or if you have both of them, because they function very similarly, but they also have a lot of differences. So it's pretty cool and interesting. So yeah. Okay, so here are my skill recommendations and builds for Legendary CAEDA. So her native Distant Storm that she comes with is fine. You get recoil for it, but it's offset by her healing, which is nice. But the best A slot for her, hands down in my opinion, is Attack Speed Excel, as it is for a lot of units, because it gives her more flat damage reduction and it works well against the cavalry foes who want to move far and initiate on her. So that is great. But if you are using Attack Speed Excel, you pretty much have to use this Encounter Seal to counterattack against those ranged foes. I mean, if you're just worried about armor units that are, the melee armor units, that you don't have to use this Encounter Seal. But if you wanted to tank and, counterattack against most stuff, then this Encounter melee Sacred Seal is a must with Attack Speed Excel. So I would say Distant Storm and Attack Speed Excel are hands down her best. You can use Distant Attack Speed solo, I suppose, but the positioning on it is a little bit awkward sometimes. So I think Distant Storm is more consistent, but it's up to you. So, I mean, don't complicate it too much. Those are pretty much the best options, not many of them. There's another skill you could use. I wouldn't really recommend it because she's not really a player phase unit, but Flared Sparrow, I suppose you can try. But you definitely want to tap more into her Vantage and tanking powers, because that's what she does best. And then don't use Attack Speed Mastery because she already has Canto 2 in her weapon. So those are pretty much the A slot. For the B slot, I mean, don't replace this. Faithful you 2, obviously keep that. And then for C, you have a lot more options. So you can see I have Shadow Shift on mine. That is a really premium option. If you can afford it, I would recommend it because it's amazing. And it gives, goes well with her Canto. You can repo your teammates. That's definitely arguably her best C slot. She does come with Attack Speed Rain Snap with her remix now, which is good because it gives you extra movement, support your teammates. That is pretty solid. But you can also use Soaring Guidance. That is, an obvious one. Guidance 4 as well, to give even more support to your team with the warping, giving them no follow-up. Those are obviously great skills for pretty much any flyer. And then Breath of Life 4, no brainer. That's great for any kind of tank, but you can also just outsource it with another unit. For example, for me, I use Attuned CAEDA, and she already has Breath of Life 4 for my arena team. And if I use them together, I don't have to use that on Legendary CAEDA. So, Breath of Life 4 is you can easily put on someone else if you have the skill. But it's useful for Legendary CAEDA because even though she's vantaging, let's say someone has Hardy Bearing or they have a really strong AoE. For example, Legendary Lilina, she has Hardy Bearing in her weapon. And you might take some damage from the AoE, but with Breath of Life 4, you can restore your HP back up and then take minimal damage from her on her actual hit. So that's one application. So Breath of Life 4, again, no brainer. Other skills you could use, just like with Flared Sparrow, I wouldn't really do this, but you could do Player Phase Deadly Miasma in the sea. You could also do Endless Tempest. I don't have these skills on mine. I mean, Endless Tempest gives you also buff neutralization and extra movement, but you can just use Sigurd Ring as well. But yeah, I wouldn't really recommend it, especially because I don't know how it interacts exactly with her weapon, stealing people's buffs and using them against them. So I'm not sure. I have to do more testing, I suppose. But let me know if you guys know how that works, because I don't. So I wouldn't really recommend it, but I guess those are options if you really want to do that. And another good skill you could try is Attack Speed Oath 4. She doesn't have the warping, so it is nice, but it does overlap with the attack speed buffs. And the warping is cool because you get Canto 2 on your weapon. And then lastly, I mentioned it at the beginning, Shadow Shift or Shadow Smite, I suppose. I say Shadow Shift is better because repo in general is more useful in most situations, especially for CAEDA, who's a tank who wants to, cover her team and be in the front lines. It's better than Shadow Smite, but Smite still has applications, I suppose. So Shadow Shift is great because not only for the the reposition, but you also have extra stats and you also get more HP healing, which is nice. So you can heal up a good amount after combat. Sacred Seal, as I mentioned, Distant Counter Seal is pretty much a must if you're using Attack Speed Excel or any other A slot that isn't Distant Counter. But you can use, if you are using Distant Storm, then you can use Attack Speed Clash Seal, Catch, obviously. Any of the squad seals that give more HP, attack, and speed, those are ideal. And if in the future, if we ever get Dive Bomb as a seal, that would be a cool option because it would make her more of a mixed phase. It have more presence in the mixed phase. You can nuke and hit consecutively, which is what I wanted in the enemy phase, like I said earlier. But yeah, Dive Bomb, Sacred Seal, if we ever get that, could be a cool option on CAEDA. She'd be one of the better users of that. So, special, no quarter. No quarter is her best one, I'd say, still, even with the damage reduction halving that she has in her weapon refine. You know, it's not as necessary, but it's still good because it does more damage against armored foes when your special triggers. So that's huge, and she obviously wants to fight armor units. And, you know, it's at 2 cooldown now, thanks to the -1 cooldown and refine. Special charges, so no quarter overall is the best one, even though she has damage reduction piercing. Haze Slice is an interesting option that you can try. I don't have it on mine, but it does give you special jumping, which is useful because she doesn't have that. And it also gives you another round of 40% flat damage reduction, but it only works if you initiate. And again, CAEDA is not always going to be initiating. She's usually going to be trying to bait out units and, you know, vantage sweep them. So, you know, Haze Slice is an option for sure, but I think no quarter overall is better. You know, she doesn't have access to Gust or anything, so I think no quarter is still better, but Haze Slice is a cool option. I suppose you can try. Assist skills, I rally defense res because she already gives attack speed +6 buff. So, you know, and she thrives off buffs, so giving defense and res to your teammates is ideal. So defense res rally for arena is the best, and obviously reposition is the classic. She can't get reposition gates, so that is fine. So that's pretty much every... Oh, sorry, forgot about emblem rings. Emblem rings, I think I said earlier, you know, Sigurd is great because you get extra movement. It works with attack speed excel. Ike is great too as well. You know, you get more damage reduction. That's a no-brainer, but I think Sigurd and Celica Ring are a bit better because you can reach those foes. You might be able to nuke them, canto back. You know, you can use Shadow Shift or whatever, and just hit and run and retreat. So I think Sigurd and Celica Ring are better overall for her right now. I mean, obviously there's going to be more emblems in the future, but Ike is also a decent secondary option, I suppose. And yeah, so those are pretty much everything I recommend for her builds, because while you can give her like budget skills, I mean, she does come with a good base kit. So it's like, it's not like you have to give her a brand new A slot. So if you don't have attack speed excel, you can use Distant Storm. That works fine. She comes with attack speed Orion with the remix. So you don't really have to give her budget skills because, you know, it's pretty much covered with what she has in her kit already. Okay, so I've gone over the builds, the remix, refine, you know, skill recommendations. So now I'm going to talk about what to watch out for when using Legendary CAEDA, because while she's a much better tank and a much better unit now, she is not invincible, and she definitely has notable weaknesses. So I'm going to go over that. The first one, obvious, strong, bulky bow units, you know, those with hardy bearing. You know, she is a flyer, so she's weak to those, so that kind of reduces her tanking ability because of that weakness, unlike Attuned CAEDA, who doesn't have the flying weakness. The second one is hardy bearing, big one. Hardy bearing is more and more common nowadays, especially with the emblem heroes and desperation effects that we have. So hardy bearing stops vantage. It's a roadblock for any kind of vantage sweeper, so you have to watch out for that. Buff notification effects, panic effect, panic smoke, strong deadly miasma initiators, those are problems for her because just like her attuned version, she works best when she's buffed up and her team. So if the foe removes those, she is way weaker, like she's super crippled. So you have to watch out for panic smoke, deadly miasma, any kind of buff nullification, even like endless tempest and stuff like that can really make her much worse. Thankfully, we have null panic. That's a great supportive status that you can get, and it's becoming more common. So null panic is great not only for stopping panic, but also because it gives her another status that she can get more flat damage in her weapon. So that is great. And now I'll get into the units that's going to give her problems, and some of these might be obvious, but a lot of them are green threats because obviously she's not going to have the advantage against them. But even some of them that you may think are good, like Marnie. Marnie's an armor unit, right? And CAEDA wants to face armors, but Marnie is just so ridiculous that it doesn't matter. Marnie, of course, has a effective against flying weapon. She has a miracle. She has buff nullification, so she has pretty much everything that CAEDA doesn't want. She has high stats, so it's like CAEDA definitely doesn't want to face Marnie, and Marnie's everywhere. She's all over arena. So if you want to use her, ideally you want to have some kind of red threat with her, like her husband Marth that I use with Emblem Marth. He can deal with Marnie, so yeah, Marnie's a problem. Also other nukes, or not other nukes, Marnie's not really a nuke, but nuke initiators like Legendary Camilla, especially those are +10. Deadly Miasma is annoying, can deal a lot of chip damage to her if she doesn't have Breath of Life, and just stop her buffs. Valentine Leon's another one. Valentine Leon has a sweep effect, and that's one of the weaknesses. CAEDA cannot use no counter disrupt unless you're using Ice Tribe Felicia, who's very rare and it's a lot to ask for. So Valentine Leon's a problem, and Nurgle as well. He's bulky, he stops and steals her buffs. So those are just some of the green threats. And also Valentine Edelgard, she's pretty new, and CAEDA is probably going to avoid her as well because I don't think CAEDA can one-shot her unless she's shipped down or something. And again, that's why I wish she had the reverse desperation. That would have really helped. But hey, And then in terms of cavalry units, she can handle like a lot of them. For example, like Ninja Corin, Ninja Lucina is another one. Even though she has damage reduction, it's not that much, but bulkier ones are going to give her a problem. Like Legendary Xander, he has a nice Weapon Refiner remix that he just got. He has damage reflection, so if Sita can't kill him, then he's just going to nuke her. Brave Alphonse is also really annoying because a lot of the time he just doesn't die. So Brave Alphonse is another problem, and he's green. So yeah, she doesn't want to fight really tanky units for the most part. And that's the problem with the Refine, is that I just wish she had that extra hit, the consecutive hit, to make the world of difference. But I'm just mentioning the units she's not good against. She's obviously good against a lot of other units, and I'm not going over them here. But you definitely want to avoid those kind of units that I mentioned. Also, tanky infantries, while she does get flat damage reduction, again, it's less against them. So you can still beat some of them in the right situation if you stat stack enough, if they have buffs, if they rely on buffs like Sita. But you know, you have to watch out for those. So, and lastly, the big question: does she do well against Nidhogre, the crazy snake in the metagame, one of the best units in the game? I haven't tested it. I haven't fought in an arena. I'll have to do more testing, like I've been saying. But I'm not confident in Nidhogre versus Sita. I'm not confident in Sita taking out Nidhogre, because while she does have the color advantage and she does have armor effectiveness and everything, Nidhogre is just so overtuned and broken that I don't know if she's a reliable, you know, if Sita can reliably counter her. Because Attuned Sita actually does pretty well against Nidhogre, because she can just wait for Nidhogre to attack her, and you know, she has gust and stuff. But Sita might vantage into her. I mean, she will vantage into her unless she has Hardy Bearing. She'll vantage into Nidhogre, might trigger her special and just die. So that's a point of concern for me. So I don't know if she can actually handle Nidhogre. I'll have to test it again, like I said, but I wouldn't say in confidence that she is going to be able to check Nidhogre. Maybe in some scenarios if you have enough support and stuff, but Nidhogre is just so ridiculous that I can't say for sure. So sadly, that's a no on that. Next up are sweep effects, flash, anti-counterattack effects from Larather, Legendary Sakura, you know, staff units in general. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, Legendary Sita doesn't have access to Null Counter Disrupt unless you're using Ice Tribe Felicia, who is rare. So this is a glaring weakness that she has, being a flying unit, and you know, flying units aren't really Omni tanks because they don't have access to that skill like her Attuned version. So it's a big weakness that's going to stop her from doing her advantage in tanking, sadly. So watch out for, again, Valentine Leon. He has sweep effect. Even the Festival Nephany has that as well. So those are big problems for Legendary Sita. But yeah, those are the big weaknesses that she has. Definitely things you have to watch out for. And they're definitely annoying obstacles. But if you can get rid of those, Sita can definitely shine. All right, so that is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about on Legendary Sita's Refine and Remix. And hopefully it gives you guys, you know, everything I've said you can put into consideration if you're on the fence on whether to refine her or not. I'm biased and I would say do it. But if you only have like one copy of her and you don't use her that much, you know, definitely think about everything I've said and make your own decision. You know, it's your game. But I think at max investment or decent investment, she can be really useful, especially for like limited hero battles if you don't use her that much. And even like Arena Assault, she can come in clutch with her Vantage Sweeping and her tanking, which again makes her very unique as a flyer, because no other flyer can really do what she does right now. And, you know, I am sad about the Reverse Desperation Dive Bomb effect. Really bummed out about that. I've said it multiple times, but it's still a good Refine and Remix, something solid, something that will make her stand out a bit more. She has her place, you know. And, you know, even her B slot, you know, Faithful Loyalty 2, I didn't really expect her to get the flat damage reduction, but I suppose I should have. But, you know, I kind of expected her to just go all in on her Vantage and not even give her much damage reduction. But the fact that it's flat is really amazing, because it's still flat damage reduction, can be really useful when Vantage fails you. And yeah, so she's a lot of fun to use, you know. And it's just unfortunate that she has a problem against a lot of units in the game, even more than her Attuned version, who definitely has weaknesses as well. But she does have her place, like I said, and can be very fun to use. So yeah, that is my video, guys. Hopefully, you know, give you guys some insight and give you, you know, help your decision if you wanted to refine her or not. And leave a like if you enjoyed listening to me ramble and nerd out about this game. Please stay safe out there. Peace out.